Welcome to Bragging Rights.
Dad.
Episode 16.
Is
Doing
it?
alright with this?
I thought it was 17.
Oh,
I'm sleep deprived, leave me alone.
fair enough. Are you going to blame the NHS?
No, I'll blame Rovers for getting to a semi-final.
What? Oh, wow. Who wrote that? Sorry, Susan's got a whiteboard over there and someone's written something very, very naughty.
Obscene.
Yeah, yes, that. Anyway, welcome to Bragging Rights again. Recorded at Tribal, nearly forgot, and sponsored by Comscaf.
You did forget last week though, didn't you?
No, I didn't forget where we were. I just forgot to tell people where we were.
All right.
I'm a bit...
I'd like to think they're that tuned in now that they'd actually know where we are now.
Yeah.
But I get it.
You have to confirm, because we might...
What if they're a new viewer or listener? What if they're
Yeah.
not from Hull? What if they've never ventured to this side?
To be fair,
Speaking of new viewers and listeners, I'll just get it in there. Like and share the podcast. And follow us as well. Like, what we get every week, we get like 700, 800, 900, sometimes over 1,000 people watching it. But we've only got like 300 subscribers. So if you watch it, subscribe. It's helpful.
very.
So anyway,
Speaking of viewers and watchers, we'll get it out of the way now, just like you said. What, 8 or 9 people probably came up to us as we stood outside near Hollywood Bowl. Just before the game at
Hollywood Bowl in
weekend.
York.
In York,
In
sorry,
York,
yeah.
yeah. Not just across the street.
No. In York, before the game, before we went round, where we was having a bit of a social gathering amongst folk, shall we say. And, yeah, loads of people came up to us, couple in the ground, saying that love what we're doing. So, shout out to everybody who came and spoke. I can't name you all, because I forgot.
I actually got a reverse one as well. Somebody that was stood near me leant down and tapped me and was like, "Bragging Rights." I was like, yeah. He was like, "Shit." Now, it did tick. He was laughing, I was laughing. It was obviously like a Rovers fan as well, and I think it was just more of like a bit of friendly banter, but yeah, it did really tickle me.
wow.
Fair enough.
I mean, if you don't like it, tell us.
Tell us why.
Don't just be like what the old fans do and just tell Josh they don't like him.
I got one Hull fan, a friend of mine who I play old man's football with on a Sunday. Last game of the season yesterday, we'd gone out for a few drinks afterwards. So shout out to Jace. Really enjoying what we're doing. And I asked him what his thoughts on Josh was, because everyone wants that.
Because no one likes Josh.
Yeah. And he don't mind you.
Yeah, I like the way he didn't say he liked you. He just don't mind you. But yeah, no, seriously, like if you can on YouTube, I think you can do it on Spotify, or just give us grief on Twitter or whatever it's called. Just leave a comment. It's good. We have one Barry on YouTube. I think Barry's the guy that we bumped into. Do you know, in the bar?
Yeah, he works
Macklin's mate.
Yeah, he works with Macklin.
He comments every week.
Good. Keep
He
doing
called
it.
me out last week because I didn't watch the Rovers game last week, did I? Even though I clearly said on the podcast I'd gone to visit my dad. And obviously you
Poor
can't watch
excuse.
anything back because, as Luke Keary says, it's the worst covered sport on the planet. But, yeah, he comments every week. I love reading his comments. Send more. It's fun. No, there is another... Yeah, I can't remember there. So Lisa's husband,
He's
I
meant
think.
to be silent, but within 2 minutes of every pod, he finds a way to shout something.
It was
He's
real
related.
nice last week, wasn't it?
He's related to you.
No, that one isn't.
Oh. Is that a different one?
Yeah, Josh is adopted.
So
now
we
I
are
get it.
chewing into the Rovers section.
Yeah,
now,
this
so
is all coming out.
I
here.
haven't started the time yet, so...
In
we have-
fairness, right, and there's not a lot to cover, really, in terms of the game itself. No, I know you, right, because you'll write loads of stuff down saying...
How are they delaying this Rovers section
I know.
so
No,
much?
great,
anyhow, you'll have written loads of stuff
Done
down
well
and
at
you'd be like, so-and-so did this, so-and-so did that. What we can safely assume is that people that are watching and listening to this, they watch the game, right?
And the one away
More,
us
more
talk
than you
about
then.
it.
Yeah, so we can talk about it, but we don't need to do play-by-play. Like,
Right,
Alright,
when
a
you
lot of the-
finally win a home game this year, if you do, and you want to go on about it, I'm going to turn around and go, people will have watched it. We don't need a play-by-play.
I think you'll find if you watch any
'cause
of our
that will
episodes
be
back,
your
we
cup
don't do
final.
play-by-play.
That will be your cup final and you want to go on about it.
No, it won't.
Let us talk about the semi-final. If it goes on, stop us.
Fine, whatever. I don't know what's worse, the fact that we haven't won at home or the fact that you keep losing finals.
How many times did it take you to win to win a Challenge Cup.
To win a Challenge Cup or to win one at Wembley?
To win one at Wembley.
I don't know.
For me, it was 11 years from start to winning the first
So
one.
8 times is the answer you're looking
So
for.
from 1999 to 2016.
What, 11 years?
How many of you
when
won?
you made it there.
How many of you won?
Well, there'll be one more, won't it, after June?
Right, shut up and let
Go
him
on
get
then.
on with it.
I won't mention Briscoe's try-scoring record
Crack on.
versus yours.
This might be the most you've ever been rattled by us, and we've only just
I'm
all
not
we've done is
rattled,
won a
just-
semi-final.
We're only the little brother.
But just
from
in a bad
across the water,
mood.
aren't we?
I know.
Just in a bad mood. Bad date wear.
Must be like microblading or whatever the shit it is you've had.
Micro needling.
Same thing.
Oh, come on. You should get some done. Look after yourself. Go to Turkey as well while you're at it.
See, now he's getting personal and nasty.
Isn't it? That's when you know you've won
I like the way he
battle.
smiled at me like I was on about his teeth.
Well,
For those that have
could be on
tuned in,
about
this is a rugby podcast. We will get to
Rugby
James is
league,
diverting
rugby
well
league.
away from that.
Yeah, I know.
We're just getting the Coronation Street Emmerdale drama.
I'm trying
out
to
the way
wind
first.
Barry
I
up.
just like the way he's just clarified that it's rugby league. Like I'm going to start talking about the Lions squad.
You never know.
Yeah,
New
yeah.
viewers.
Yeah, yeah.
Some topics we can discuss in that.
8 minutes in, apparently.
And I reckon 6 of them have been you.
Yeah, go on then. Talk. I'll put my mic down.
So should we start with play-by-play? So the
Well,
kick-off.
why don't we start at the
very first one.
quarter-final, right, to really set the scene?
Oh dear, brilliant. So yeah, we've spoke about this a lot on the pod, especially when we're referring to Rovers, and it's that fast start that we seem to have nailed in the last sort of 18 months or so. We tend to get on the front foot and we put teams under pressure, and 8 times out of 10 maybe we'll score an early try, and that happened again at the weekend.
On that point, this is what I've been referring to when we joked the other week about... No, I was joking, am I wrong? Because Pete had made some comments saying that Rovers start quick, and I was trying to find that middle ground. This game is almost a perfect example of what I've been trying to say. It's not that we can't start quick or score tries early on in the game, and even though the stats do show that we score a few more in the opening 20 than the other 3 quarters of a game, but overall half and half it's quite even. This was a game where you can see that. We did manage to get up the blocks, the starting blocks quite quickly, but then when they came back into it, there was a fair amount of time where it was evenly matched. But then we felt the game out, got their number, went on to, in my opinion, dominate, particularly in the second half. And that's part of that game plan. Sometimes we do get the tries early on, but we are still figuring out where we are and what we're doing. And I wasn't going to mention it straight off the bat, but I think it fits in here quite nicely. There was a comment that I read from a journalist. I forgot to note him down, so I apologise, but I've sort of bastardised what he said a bit because I think it fits my review of the game and the team overall. Throughout the game, we remained patient, sniffed out weaknesses, and then we attacked when the time was right. I think that's actually pretty much what we've been like all season.
Was it Aaron Bauer?
No, I've got one from him
So
as
you
well.
got something similar.
Yeah,
didn't
I've
you?
got a different one from him, but that's what we've been like all season when we've been playing our best. And I felt that after saying last week after the Salford game, not being the best warm-up, and are we going to see that better Rovers? That is what we did. But I do think that's what I've been trying to refer to for a long time. When we are at our best, that is how we are. We are patient, but sometimes, because we are very good going forward, we do pick up those early tries.
Yeah, definitely. And you thought when it went to 10-0, I think there was a bit of complacency that set in a little bit, and they got themselves back into it. And initially, I'm going to skip our first couple of tries, but I'll get back to them because we're talking about Catalan getting back into it. But what's his name? Smith. I don't know his first name, but anyway,
The
one.
centre.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called first try score.
Yeah. Remus.
Remus, that's it. Yeah.
So at the game, I was like, that is poor. Very, very poor defensively. But then as I watched it back, and this plugs into what you've said before, like you see things differently when you're at a game as compared to when you're watching
You're
it on
caught
the
up
TV.
in the emotions, aren't you?
Yeah, of course you are.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very, very poor from Hiku, but then looking back, it's an outstanding bit of centre play. Hiku's tracking back to his right, effectively, and Smith notices that and then stops and cuts back inside. And I just thought I just needed to shout that out because obviously I've been guilty of that a few times this season.
No.
So. Hey, I
At
love
least
my
you
hands
held your
up.
hands up, yeah.
You know
I
what
think
I
a
mean?
bit of credit needs to be given to Catalan as well because I said you called me out during the game for saying it because I put a jinx on you. I think you said or something like that.
definitely, yeah.
I said that
Something
you
about
started with the right
intensity,
intensity and aggression. at the right level. It was just perfect, and you was playing the game, not the occasion, which a lot of teams are guilty of playing the occasion in these type of fixtures. But credit to Catalan, they started slow. You made sure of that, but they did well to come back where a lot of teams wouldn't have done against you. You would have romped away with it. So a little bit of credit to them. And Smith was behind that. I think Kiri and Farge was as well. For not great periods of the game, but for that part of the game, they did really well to come back. But then it shows how good you are, where you can turn that back around and finish the half strong when you was on the back foot for probably the second half of that first half.
I don't disagree with anything you've said, and either what you've both said. It does Catalan a bit of a disservice if we pretend like there wasn't a chance that they was going to get over the trial line. That is an arrogant thing to say. They are still a good side. I said last week they've had an up and down season in my opinion, and that's why I had a level of confidence going into the game. But there's still some very, very good players in there. There's still a very good team structure, and whatever your opinion on McNamara as a coach, he knows how to coach that team to win games and win them well. They gave Lee a hell of a game last week, going into this. And yes, we got 2 tries quickly, in the game. But at that point, the game was definitely still in the balance. And Catalan were getting smothered by that point. They were physically in it, particularly in the forwards. And yes, 1 try, particularly good bit of individual brilliance. But also from great teamwork, where one player looks like he's done it all. But it was Farge's setup and Kiri's pass and the way they were definitely in it. And that's because they are a top 6 side, in my opinion, when they're clicking. They just haven't quite proven it every game this year so far. So we didn't play no muck. We didn't draw Salford or Huddersfield in a semi-final. We drew a team that was going to give us, and we had to stand up and be professional about it. And in talking about trying to make things into positives all the time, the way I see the entire game hinges a lot on that middle sort of quarter, if you like. That second quarter, the middle of the first half, where they did creep back in and they took the lead from us. And how we managed to stand up to that and in a mature way, stuck to the game plan, remained patient, and made sure that we pushed on and did what had to be done. And then we showed we was a better team and we had more on the day. So, not that I disagree, but I don't want to take that away from Catalan as well. We was a lot better than them on the day, but they're no mugs.
Yeah, you speak about game plan there, and I think that's probably something that Peters has probably planned for. That they were going to have that purple patch, and it was probably going to come early on. Hot day, big forwards, big team that they've got. They were always going to tire at some point. But you just feel like, yeah, they scored 2 tries in that period, but it's something that we were probably aware that could happen and how we would respond going on from that. And I think we nailed it there, so can't really complain. But yeah, so the tries, I think obviously going into the game, big news, we've lost Gildart, 4 months, needs knee surgery, meniscus.
I must say I was surprised when I heard there was a chance he might play earlier on in the week.
Game planning. It's all man games. That's just keeping someone in the squad that isn't going to play, in my opinion.
No, but even straight after the game last week as well, when they were saying, no, they don't think it's serious. I don't think that at that point was game plan and man games. It was just the way he went down and the way he was holding it. I initially thought that's serious. But
I think the thing is with them sort of injuries, initially when your adrenaline's still going and things like that, they don't appear that serious. How many times have you seen players come off with ACL ruptures or PCL ruptures and the walk?
But that's why when you see someone in that much pain straight away, it goes down a bit.
I think as well, we don't know the full details of what's happened to Gilly at the minute, and sometimes in these situations, knees particularly are weird things. You can play on without having things repaired. I don't want to go into a lot of detail about like ACLs and stuff, but people don't get ACLs repaired anymore. They can carry on their lives. They don't play a high-level sport, don't get me wrong, but the way that medicine's evolved and the way things are different, there's that side of it where you can actually carry on before surgery. And how often in rugby league do we see players wait till the end of a season to have surgery? Yeah. Do you remember when we talked about Mikey Lewis before Christmas opting to play for England and hold off having surgery?
I'm aware of a Hull player, what I won't name, who's holding off surgery and already at this stage of the season.
And so what we don't know until we know more details is, in that initial sort of assessment of what's gone on with Ollie's knee, is it that serious? Is it, if it's a torn meniscus, he's playing on, right? If it's a rupture of some part of a knee, maybe he can't play on. Maybe it's time to let him have a few runs in the week and see how he's walking and ask the question. Then it's a decision between player, coach and a full team really to say, well, actually, how long is this recovery going to be, and will he be back for playoffs and potentially a grand final? You know, all these things come into play. All we've got to go on is that he went down quite badly, and then we find out he's in the squad. We hear talks from the coach that potentially he's playing game time decision, which he obviously wasn't. All we say now is we had to make the shuffle, and we wish him all the best in a speedy recovery.
So, I don't want to take away from your time, but just a question on this. Morg goes back at full back. Does Broadbent go to centre, or does Batch stay at centre for you? Because Broadbent was initially brought in as a centre, wasn't he?
He wasn't really brought in as anything.
Was
He's
he
been
not?
brought
Was he
in
more
as a
as
back row utility.
well, I saw him as a centre more. I don't know if I had seen him
I
play
think
there
he
a
played
little
centre
bit.
for Leeds, to be honest with you, pal. It's tough because it all hinges on who you're playing and what you're doing. I don't want to jump ahead massively and talk about our game this weekend, Huddersfield, but a game where we're probably going to get some players rested, well-deserved rest, and we're probably going to play a few more of the fringe players as well. And then you start to talk about what we're going to do in the team setup, and that's a case of, well, actually, does Batch do 25 minutes each half in the forwards? Does Kershaw finally get a goal on the wing, so that means Batch is at centre? We don't really know. I think long term, I don't fancy Batch as a centre for the next 4 months, in my opinion. I think we'll see a chop and change a lot over the coming months. I think as well we've got to consider, and I don't know the timings on it, but we can't be a million miles off Reece Martin coming back as well.
Yeah, that's true.
And that also adds another string to our bow for how we change people.
You've also got to prep for the final coming up.
1 week left.
No, I wrote that as it came with your mouth.
But I don't understand the one.
I was about to put back, but I didn't get a chance to write it.
Oh, okay.
You've got
No,
a final to prep for, so would it be worthwhile keeping Batch there, because the chance that Broadbent's going to have to play at full back because Morg can't play, so for the final prep for the next 3 or 4 weeks, would you keep Batch there so he's got a run there, because the chance that he's the more likely to play there? But now he said Martin might be back.
Do you do something funky where he gets a half there, but Morg gets the other half? You don't want him to lose his match fitness. He's also been a superstar at the minute. Look, it's a really good problem to have where we're almost questioning, what do you pick, the 9 out of 10 player or the 9.5 out of 10 player at the minute for us? It's so tough. I honestly don't know the answer, but I appreciate the point you're making.
It's great. It's a great decision, a headache to have, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
a good headache.
Yeah. So yeah, let's just touch on the trials really quickly.
Sorry, we took ages to get to the trials.
It's
It's on me,
alright,
I
don't
know,
worry.
sorry.
It's plenty to talk about for us, but is what it is, isn't it? So the first try, Batch, it was kind of like Batch was justifying his selection. That's initially where I was going with that before we went off on the tangent, as we usually do. But I think, yeah, it did feel a bit of him justifying that, because obviously Mikey Lewis was in the picture as well, because it was his kick that went forward, and I think Batchelor showing that will and want to get to that ball before anybody else is kind of saying, this is why I'm picked in this position.
Yeah, showed a lot of desire.
Yeah, definitely. And then obviously the second try. So this is, for me, which was the first big talking point of the game. And have I ever mentioned how I love the on-field decision, by any way? That's what I've got right down. I had to throw that in there. Because without it, I don't think that's given. I don't think it's a try.
I don't think it is a try, in my opinion. I think that there's nothing wrong with the initial come together of players. It's the right shoulder to be hitting.
Poor defensive read.
Yeah, it's a poor defensive read. The gap's there. I hasten to say, know what's going on. If Mike had just kept going, he'd have scored anyways.
Oh no, play to the whistle.
That's what I'm saying, but he stops, doesn't he?
Yeah,
if he doesn't, he almost comes to what I would say is almost a complete full stop. It looks like if he doesn't do that, I don't think he's getting tackled one-on-one at the line. But my problem isn't with that. It's what happens after that.
My problem before that, by the way.
Okay, well, I don't. My thing is, I don't think Batch is fair to put his hand on the ball. That's why I don't think it's a try.
I don't think that either. I think these two. I think it's an obstruction, and I think the reason why it wasn't, and Failer goes, "Oh, I'm fine with that." He slows it down so slow, but you look at normal pace. I think, is it Whitehead, the Catalan player?
Yeah, it's Whitehead, yeah.
So his eyes go from that to that, and it's like he's just trying to get the Rovers player out of his way, because he don't go like that. He's like to attempt to tackle him. It's like he is moving on with play, and the Rovers player stops him. That's my opinion. Mikey then should have played to the bloody whistle. Sorry if I thought he was going to jump in. No.
I was clearing my throat over there.
And then I agree with. I thought they grounded the ball first before Batch did.
one thing that frustrated me when I watched this, well, when I was watching it, and I was watching the video ref go through, oh, is there another camera? Is there another camera? Blah, blah, blah. There was another camera angle that never got used. If you watch the game back, literally just after he says, I've made my decision, it flicks to another camera angle. It's quite far away. It's the opposite side, the opposite corner, straight through all the players. You can see. And for me, I'm a bit hit or miss. I don't quite know whether he did get there first, because the angle that you actually saw where he said, you know, they both put their hands on it, blah, 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 you had sort of, I'll put my hand down. So say that's the Catalan player.
Yep.
And then your hand, no, this side, you could see, so it was the two left hands. The right hand of Batch went out of view because of the way of the camera. So we don't actually know whether he did touch it down first or not. But from that other angle, you had the opportunity to see his right hand. And for me,
I don't want
it doesn't make a difference at the result.
It doesn't, and I don't
might
want us to
have.
lose a lot of time on it.
All I'm saying is, he should explore every single camera angle that's available, not just the two cameras that are closest to the event.
He's having to say, no, I want that camera angle, or go back to camera 2, and this is, we spoke about this the other week about the referee, the video referee having control of them cameras, so he can go, right, I want to look at camera 3 in that corner, or 2, or the main, whatever the camera numbers are, and he's got clear ability to choose whichever camera he wants at any given time. The decision will be made quicker, because he must be getting frustrated wherever he is that he's having to wait for a camera, and then he's having to tell him to slow it down or speed it up, and it's just a drag, and it's.
I think they should literally go around all the cameras, play them all at full speed, decide whether that camera is going to have a decent view of it or not, and then decide whether to rule it out. They shouldn't just say, are there any other cameras with any, you know, show me this, show me this. They should just show all the bloody cameras. Put all the cameras in front of the ref and say,
you'd think he'd have
and stop it. At the time he puts the ball down, stop it and let him look at all the still images and think, right, I might be able to make a decision on that one.
Well,
but at the end of the day, we can talk about the video ref every single week till we're all blue in the face, and it's not doing anyone that's listening or watching any good, because it's not going to change.
It's not doing us any favours.
No,
It's
a contentious decision, and I said, I know it was always going to discuss it, I don't want to listen too much on it. My opinion is it wasn't a try. I'll give Catalan the credit where it's due there. If anything, that's what buoyed them up to try to push on from there. They did start turning after that and showed probably their best period of the game.
That breaking play probably helped them, didn't it?
I would just go back again and say, we've discussed this before as a 4. If you don't have the video ref, what happens there, right? And you're talking about a very fast game, and if we don't have Mikey stopping, he probably goes over. You know, all these things have happened. Doesn't matter now, it went into try, but realistically, if that's a normal game with no video ref 5 years ago when there wasn't every game, and that just goes over, it's a try, you move on. Very fast, referee's made a decision, I think he got his hand to the ball. We used to see them all the time. We've just happened to be able to see a lot more video refs now, and then we get mad when we can't see exactly what we want or we don't use the right videos. We get mad when we think they've made the wrong decision. We get mad when they don't go to video ref because we want them to. It didn't change the outcome of the game, and that's coming from a Rovers fan who doesn't think it was a try.
Fair enough.
Next one, Craig.
Next try.
Just one thing on that did make me laugh was some comments online, and I've seen it from multiple fans of different clubs. Excuse me. They've said that it wasn't a try and it should have been a goal line dropout. No, the initial knock-on was in the field of play, so it would have been a 10-metre scrum. It's like, learn the rules. If you're going to comment, be factually correct. So, anyways, that was something that... Yeah, there we go.
What knock-on?
The
They were
knockout,
saying it was a
been
knock-on
classed as a
instead of it
knock-on.
being...
The knockout from Whitehead out of Lewis's hands.
Yeah, it went backwards, though.
No, they'd called it as a knock-on. That's why it was play on.
Oh,
So
did they
it'd been-
really?
yeah.
I didn't hear that part of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I thought he knocked it backwards because it went to the in-goal
I think
area, so clearly the ball went...
bounce took it that way
Okay.
because it bounced on the point of the ball anyways. So we've already spoke about the first one, Catalans. The second one, another contentious decision, if you will. For me, it was a try. No issues with it. I thought Farge did brilliant to get himself back on side. It was that sort of last-minute lunge that he did to get himself back behind the kicker. And then ultimately he wasn't involved in the play because it didn't come off him or he didn't score or anything like that. But I just thought that was a brilliant bit of play from Fage to be able to make himself be in that mix. And
I had no issue with that.
No
try.
issues for me.
I don't think it was a try.
Yeah. Tell us for why, as Jimmy would
For
say.
why, I've got no issues with Fage, with Curry, with the kick. My issue is, and I'm going back to a Hull game last year, and it was the last league game of the season where Danny Houghton got a try chalked off because there was Hull players within the 10, but wasn't interfering.
Change the rules.
Did have to change the rule?
Yeah, that
They
rule changed
changed
this
it
season.
after Marshall didn't score against us in the grand final because of that
shut
rule.
up, then it was a try.
Yeah, if the video ref actually says when he's going through it, he says none of those players are interfering with play. They're not active in play.
Why have I not?
That's what happened.
I've
It was the grand final.
I've
Marshall scored in
totally
the
missed
corner.
that one then. So
Yeah, they did
that's
it
on
for
me.
Wigan.
I'm glad they've changed it
Nah,
because I was,
me
call-
too, 'cause
no,
it
'cause I
was
was
the right
calling the
thing.
fact that Houghton's try that was ridiculous that it was disallowed last
Yeah.
year.
Now they just need to change the rule where, do you know, if you're going in for a tackle and you don't even play at the ball, but it hits your hand, then it gets wiped
They
back to
used
6.
to, didn't they?
They need to get rid of that.
It used to be play on.
Yeah.
It used to be it was in the tackle. Then they changed it to any contact
Yeah.
because there was too much grey area. So they changed it to any contact, whether it's in the tackle or not. But yeah. that's
Anyway,
it.
you've got about 8 more tries to bore us with, so come on.
I've just skipped a load because I've got loads of other stuff. And
We're getting told there's 1 minute left.
freaking out over there, and I'm going to go over, and I don't care what you say.
Wasn't it good last week when there was no one with a time? We just did what we wanted.
No, because I had to do more editing. Took me ages.
Yeah, but if you
care
can
about
just not do the timing, because I'm aware
Oh,
of the
yeah,
time,
yeah.
so I've got it on
Yeah.
my watch.
Oh,
So
fair
if you
enough.
can just do the editing bits, then
Just press the sponsor button and cut him off.
I'll still be talking when it comes back on. Second half, the penalty sort of set the tone. It come off the back of a almost 90 metre set from us. We went length of the field and got the penalty. And then obviously we took the penalty. And I think that set the tone. It set the ball rolling a little bit for us in that second half. It gave us that full one score lead of 6 points. And then from there, we just, from 50 minutes sort of onwards, we upped that intensity and that aggression in defence, which ultimately led to Broadbent's first try, because we forced them to kick from their 22, so about 22 metres out, and started our set on the halfway line. And the second one, they kicked from 12 metres out from their own line, which is a gain of about 10, and we started the set on the 30.
This is where, obviously, the game turned. We know that from the score, but this is where we showed that we'd been patient and started to dominate the game. The forwards were pretty evenly matched for big portions of the sort of first 50 minutes, in my opinion.
Which we knew they would be.
They have a good pack, they have a big pack, but they were really trying to be niggly and get us into it, and there was a few off-the-ball skirmishy scuffles. We didn't really rise to it, and we just sort of stayed professional and carried on, and by the time we got into the second half, I feel like 2 things happened. Not only did we start to get on top of them because we wasn't getting involved in the niggle, so we wasn't trying for the extra holding down or the extra hand in the tackle and play the ball area, but also our sort of fitness started to show that they didn't seem to have quite as much at us. And I don't know if that's a sign of how fit our team is, as we've discussed before, and our strength and conditioning so good, possibly part of it. But I also think it actually showed what happened last week, where we had, quote unquote, a training exercise at Magic Weekend, where we didn't get put under the pasting and we didn't get under pressure, because they did against Lee. And it really, really showed. And that's where the game turned on the head then. And all of a sudden, not only was our forwards that extra bit more dominant, because I would say we was edging it out, but it was quite even. But then all of a sudden it was, well, our forwards can almost do what they want. We're dominant in attack, we're dominant in defence. Now our ball players and our backs can run wild. And that is what we did in the second half.
Yeah, and Broadbent's first try, obviously, I spoke about what led to it, but that vision to see, I think it was that Aspiro Bichet, the fullback. I don't know if I've probably butchered
Talent,
his.
that lad.
He is.
Yeah.
But for Broadbent to pick him out on the fly, it was similar to what Minchella did against Catalans last year, where he noticed that, I think it was Busquets was offside because he was absolutely blowing, and he snapped back and went round, if you remember. And that was very similar, like it was a sort of what we'd call a heads-up play for me. Like, he'd noticed that the defender was slow getting back, and he just scorched through the hill, put his foot down, and then scored under the sticks and face planted the floor. But
Yeah, he was trying to do his best Caesar impression, wasn't he?
yeah, he's trying to scorpion himself, wasn't he? But I think he thought the pitch was a bit more moist than what it actually was, and obviously
Moist.
just
It's a great word.
had to slip it in there, didn't I?
Moist and slip it in there. Come on, Craig.
Completely unintentional as well, but I'll take it.
There's so many people listening and watching this now that are just like, just cringing. Go, stop talking. You're slowing us down.
Disappear. Yeah, and then 2 tries to round it off. The budgie one was really nice. The pass from May was absolutely quality.
I texted you earlier and I'd said, like, I was really impressed with
it was
May
scored
on
in
the
Bruges,
day.
apparently.
I think that, yeah, at work trying to send a quick message. But I thought May and Mikey had one of the better games that we've had together. They complement each other well. May defensively was very good, particularly in the first half when Catalan were trying to put the pressure on us. But I thought Mikey had a mature and quite controlling game. One of those games we spoke about where, because if he's not always making the steps in the breaks and he's not shouting to the crowd, you forget how good he can be as just a normal halfback when he's not doing the flash. It's not that he didn't make breaks and step a few people, but they complement each other really well. But May, in the second half, almost had a bit of freedom, and the pass that he put out for Budgie to go in that corner is sublime.
Wasn't quite a Harbour Bridge pass, was it? But it was
very nice.
It was very nice, yeah. That's pretty much it for the game, really, unless anybody else has got anything, and then just a few points afterwards.
I don't say no, if in case I'm wrong with the rules anymore.
I'm
Which I'm
closer-
seething about,
I'm
by the
closer
way,
to
'cause I
him than
normally
you
know
are,
the rules.
I've got the point I wanted to make about, you mentioned him earlier, but Aaron Bauer, journalist for The Guardian, I believe, reading a piece that he'd put in after the game, and we've been critical of our team quite a lot. We're very guilty, both of us have been nervous going into games and saying here we still expect us to do something wrong. And I'm sure people might find, particularly me on this, sometimes arrogant about Rovers, but I'm usually not. I'm usually quite nervous going to games, and I find it hard to be super confident going into games. It was hard not to be a bit nervous, but also confident with the team we had the way we've been playing on Saturday. And we come away and now, we're absolutely buzzing to go to Wembley again, and now we start to feel nervous. And I was reading this piece and it was complimenting us, and I was feeling a bit awkward reading it. It was like, come on, give Catalan some credit, and we were good, but we wasn't amazing. And he wrote a little piece here, and this is sort of verbatim from what he'd said, but the biggest compliment that we can give Rovers is not that we are now often seeing them as a presence in these games, so he means big games, semi-finals, finals, but what they are doing is they're learning how to handle them like the best. And I read this morning before I messaged Craig with our notes, and I thought about it, and I thought, that's actually really fair if you look at the journey we've been on in the last couple of years. Like, I watched back the semi-final from 2 years ago against Wigan on Friday night ahead of this game, just because I thought it'd be fun viewing. And we didn't really deserve, on the team we was that year, to be in that final. We didn't really deserve to beat the Wigan team that they had on that day. But the grit, determination, like a true underdog team on the day, we won. And obviously it's a memory forever, that Schneider drop goal that was amazing. But then we didn't back it up at Lee. But then we went one better last year in terms of how we played as a team. We finished second in the league. We did really well. We probably was by far and away the second best team in the league, arguably second or third with Warrington. But there was nobody else in that mix. We was top 3 for sure. We then made it to a grand final, one of the lowest scoring grand finals of all time, and lost by 1 score. Only let 1 try in. And we're still dogging on our team and saying we're not very good. And then you see what this bloke's written, you think, well, actually, coming from a non-biased fan, just a sports journalist, you're right, we have grown so much as a team. We are now starting to become a constant presence in these big games, and we are starting to perform like the best. Because that performance, to put on 3 times the amount of points to the other semi-finalist in a semi-final game against a good team, shows you are performing like one of the best. And I thought, I like that statement, and I'm going to take that as a positive going forward, that yes, it'll come across a little bit red and white arrogance, but we should deserve and we should be giving our team
It's
a
not you
bit
saying
more
it,
prop.
really, is it? So
It's not me saying, I'm saying
yeah.
I agree with it. We should be giving our team a few more. I know we have to win something. I know we do. We've spoke about it loads. But along the way, we are allowed to give them some props, and I'm guilty as the worst of them for dogging on and being Rovers. It's time I started being a bit more positive and saying, actually, we do, when we earn it like we did on Saturday, we deserve it.
Yeah, can't agree with that, and I'm guilty of that as well.
I genuinely can't understand anyone. Like, I can understand, like, I was dogging on you earlier as a joke, like, about not winning finals. Like, yeah, fair enough. You're going to win one eventually. I don't understand any of your fans that come out now and say, oh, we need to be better, that's not good enough, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, because, and it pains me to say it, your team's class. Like, you might have your off
Jimmy, I'm
day.
gonna cry.
You might, you might have your off day every now and again, but all the the top teams do. Wigan had their off day. First game of the season, Wigan lost. World champions, league champions, Challenge Cup holders, they lost. Do you know what I mean? It happens, but I think the difference is with them is after that game, I don't think any of their fans dogged on their team because they knew that they ground it out and they lost by a point. Anyone that dogs on your team this season is basically an idiot. But my
You
question
might want
is,
to join the Hull FC banter page on
no,
Facebook.
I don't want to join it because
No, you don't.
I don't want to be involved in that because it is just idiocy, isn't it? The question is now, well, not necessarily a question, a statement and then a question. Statement being, in my opinion, and I think Dean will echo this as well, you have to win the Challenge Cup. The question off the back of that is, if you don't, when do you see yourselves winning something? Because this is the best opportunity that you'll get, in my opinion, to win something. And the team that you've got, if they don't win something, it's got to get in their heads. Like, if I'm playing in that team and I'm like,
why can't we do it? You start questioning yourself.
We've just missed out on a massive opportunity there. It's going to get in your head, innit?
You asked this question earlier on the season. I'd like to think I give the same answer now as I gave then. I don't think we have to win this year for it then to become a problem. It's not been that sustained long period of us going to finals. We're talking a 2-year journey here. We're talking 2 years ago, Challenge Cup final, and we're talking last year grand final. That's it. You have to go back to 2015 when we lost
But it's
Wembley
still
to
3
Leeds.
losses in 3 years in finals, and we
But
don't know what's going through the players' heads.
How many
do you?
times it took Warrington to get over it?
Yeah, but they won the Challenge Cup. They lost the grand final, but they still won the Challenge Cup 3 or 4 times, or maybe 2 or 3.
Didn't they go to 6 finals when they did before winning one?
Grand final, not Challenge Cup, no.
The point being is, it's great to turn around and say, that team getting ahead. There are players in there that have been here for them years. There is Mikey Lewis, right? That is fine. But Tyrone May isn't one of them. Jared Warrior-Hargreaves isn't one of them. Budgie isn't one of them, right? That you're talking, most of our core of our team played in last year's grand final, but didn't play in the final, the Challenge Cup final 2 years ago. I know this from watching the game on Friday night. I couldn't believe the team we had in that semi-final.
You mentioned
against
that,
Wigan.
didn't you, how much it's changed?
It was right. Honestly, Mikey was a bench player that had to come on last minute to start at fullback because Ryan Hall got injured in the warm-up, right? Jordan Abdul was injured, didn't play the game.
Who was your halves?
Our halves, Brad Schneider, we
Was it
drafted
Rowan
in and
Mills?
played 2 games, and Rowan Milnes.
Wow.
Right? We had the guy who went to London, I really liked him, Kennedy starting at prop. Right? It's not the same team. And that's why I say it doesn't have to be this year. I desperately want it to be. And I agree it's our best chance. I can't argue with that. And I think the Challenge Cup is our best chance because it's a long season and a grand final and a league leaders' shield is hard to win. But we can't pretend this is the same team from 2 years ago that lost to Lee. Because
Fair assessment, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very fair assessment, but for me, I think we are at that stage where I don't want this to come across as red and white glasses or whatever, but we have to win something for me. Like, I totally get your point in what you're saying about, like, you know, a different team, and it's not a mentality thing because they've only played in, like, last year's final, but again, we've got a lot of different personnel, even to last year's grand final, to what we've got now, but to be taken seriously, we have to win. And if it's not the Challenge Cup, then we have to, in my opinion.
I think people are taking you seriously. You don't worry about outside noise. Forget what people are saying outside.
No,
I think it's for your own. It's for your coaching staff, your playing staff, and the fans as well. Like,
what I mean by that is Warrington. It's always your year. They're the butt of everybody's joke, sort of.
they play on that. They love that. The fans even
Yeah,
sing
they
it
do now,
themselves,
but they didn't used
yeah,
to.
True.
So for me, if we don't win the Challenge Cup, which is probably our best chance of silverware out of everything, you look at Warrington, what injuries they're going to have possibly, and how they're going at the minute and things like that. They're very up and down. Obviously, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, it's a long time. It can all change, but that's our best chance. But for me, if we don't, we have to win the grand final or the league leaders. We have to win something this season to be taken seriously.
I agree with that, and I think it's because of how dominant you've been this season in most of your games. Yeah, you had a bit of a blip against. I wouldn't even call it a blip, but against Leeds, you could have done a lot better against us, especially with us losing Cust in that game. It took you 65 minutes to really stamp your authority in that, and it took a last minute. Well, not last minute, but a very late try from Mikey to get past Leeds. But aside from them 2 games, and off the back of that as well, you've come off the back of them 2 games. You've had your training exercise against Salford, and then you've had a fairly solid first half against Catalan, and then a very dominant second half against Catalan in a semi-final. I feel like them 2 games have probably done you a favour and really got you over that potential dip. You have to win.
My final point on this, because whilst I obviously disagree, I think it's next year when that becomes the problem. The difference in what we did on Saturday, the word dominance being used by I think at least 3 of us, and I think maybe all 4 would agree we was dominant in the second half. That's so different to what we've done previously. How we got to last year's grand final was on a contentious try decision for Joe Burgess against Warrington, right? How we got to the Challenge Cup final 2 years ago was on a drop goal from nowhere from a player who had only played 2 games for us, who had been drafted in to cover an injury crisis in the pouring rain against 12 men Wigan. It's not the same, right? So it is a different team, and it's a different team in the way we're performing. And I was so enthused by what I saw in the second half. It means that I'm not going to Wembley completely bricking it. It means that there is that a little bit of confidence of it. I think we've got a chance. I haven't entered the last 2 finals with any level of confidence that we can do it.
It's a team that looks like it's learning from its mistakes, and for Warrington, that should be a worrying thing.
We'll find out in the dress rehearsal in a couple of weeks.
Have you got them
when
beforehand?
we go there, yeah.
2 weeks' time.
Ooh.
We will. How long have we been recording?
45 minutes.
Wow.
We've only had 35 though, because you cried for 10.
Okay. So yeah, we don't want to listen to you. Yeah, crack on then. Let's play the sponsors bit.
This week's episode is sponsored by Comscaff.
Commercial Scaffolding, or Comscaff, are a Hull-based company formed over 30 years ago.
They offer a safe and professional scaffolding service nationwide.
For services and enquiries, you can go to comscaff.co.uk or call 01482 782 181.
Wow, I can't believe that's the first time we've actually played that back, and Josh's comments during that was, I wrote this.
I mean, it was meant to be banter, and also it was more a point of when we agreed we had to record it last week, nobody was interested.
Yeah.
Craig and Dean ran that way.
Basically, it's just easier to record it, isn't it?
I'm not going to talk about the Rovers thing because I know we're moving on. I imagine we will get comments saying, how have you not spoke about McNamara's comments, because that was the last thing we was going to discuss about the penalty count.
Because it's an FC and a Rovers podcast.
We didn't get to it.
Okay.
It's moving on to FC. We get there's a point to be stood there.
Jimmy did cut us off before we could say
we're not going to discuss it.
Wembley again. Ole, ole. Over to you.
Anyway,
Why was singing that as well yesterday?
Was he?
Yeah.
Thieves.
we do surprisingly have a little bit to talk about with regards to
big
FC.
though. It's big.
It is big. I'm going to bring it up on my phone because Dean told me to.
The academy team in 2027 will be touring Australia for 3 weeks between February and March. And for young kids, that is must be unbelievable to the thought.
I think
of
it's
that.
fantastic.
It's absolutely unbelievable.
Nothing negative in any way can I think to say about that, and I never would, especially with young kids. I think it's fantastic.
So we're hoping as well. Sorry.
I'm just going to say, you told me to bring this up so I could read it. And go on then.
No, it's like, I'm not talking about that exactly.
I like delegating on my
Hopefully we
podcast.
get the Vegas 2027 gig, because it looks like you've got the 26th, and probably by this time this comes out, we'll know. So our first team could be in Vegas with our academy in Australia. I mean, that's a lot of travelling for a couple of sides.
Worldwide,
yeah.
wide.
Good job we're minted, innit?
For now, until Vegas and Australia.
Yeah.
But no, it's such good news out the club.
And I am now going to dog on FC,
Oh,
right?
here we
'Cause I've
go.
got no sort.
Here we go.
This is about the 10th time on this podcast you've mentioned how minted you are, right?
Yeah, go on.
Go and buy your own stadium.
He's already said he didn't want to. Why would we want to?
No, not that you don't want to.
Well, yeah, but it don't
no,
make
no,
sense
decide
to.
between you, Rowan FC fans. Do you want one or not?
Yeah.
As a fan,
Every-
So
yes.
if you're that loaded, go and buy one.
Or build them.
It doesn't make sense to buy and build our own stadium.
Right, we're not going to get into like a whole economy discussion here. It never makes sense really to rent over buying.
I mean, it does. Let's not get into that because I would rather rent my house than buy a house, and we can get into that discussion off air. But
Well, that always depends on whether the occupiers of the home are happy or not. And it seems to me a lot of FC fans are happy renting the KC.
Yeah, I'm all right, yeah. Did you
Yeah.
catch Coronation Street last night?
No, I didn't. I missed it.
no,
It was
like I
a
said,
good
we
one.
don't need to get into it. I'm not happy at the KC or MKM, whatever they want to call it.
Well,
but-
you can stay at home then.
No, I am happy at home. But no, I don't see much point in us spending 20, 30 million building a stadium when we've got one there that we can rent off the council. So
Sounds like someone that's pretending to have a lot of money would say.
Back to the Australia.
You can
talk.
lend out a golf stand and put it on Costello if you want,
no, well, I mean, if you had that much money, you'd build a decent stadium, wouldn't you?
which we are
Um,
doing.
Okay.
So,
Anyway, this is the
jealousy's
FC
not a
bit.
good trait, is it?
So yeah, Australia. I read this. This came out, and I was just like, wow. Like how good must you be feeling if you're like, what will it be by then? It'll be the 16, 17-year-olds that'll be going, or is it younger?
No.
They
Imagine
did
if you're
50.
one of the players who gets cut like this
Oh,
season
no.
before you go. Like obviously I know like
Oh.
the kids and stuff like that, and it's all a learning experience. But how heartbreaking are some players going to be that they're not going to be involved? I know it's all. I'm not throwing
It'll be
any
the
shade
same
on it
next
or
year,
anything
though.
like
Imagine
that.
if like one of your players gets injured in like round one.
And can't play in Vegas.
And can't play in Vegas in what'll
absolutely.
be,
I'm
like,
not throwing
2
any
or
shade
3.
on FC, by the way. That was from.
It's hard on anyone in any situation. This particularly big one to tour Australia for a young kid is amazing. All you hope is that anyone that does get cut gets time at another team. You know, not getting caught with the sport. We don't like to see that. You want players to go on. And what maybe on a more sort of contentious point to make, but maybe for them players in your academy, which is already a very good academy by all accounts, use it as a thing to spare them on. Like I want to improve and I want to get better. I want to impress and show I'm worthy of a spot in this squad because actually, if I do, not only have I got a chance of full-time employment playing rugby in the future, but I can go on a tour to Australia very soon. So there's that as well.
So is it the scholars now? They're under 16s. Would there be? Is that the academy in 2020? I don't know. I get lost with what the age group difference is and what.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
well, it won't be people like Charles or people like that because
I think it's
they'll
like
be too
Vegas.
old for.
Is it like 18 to 23, and then you go up to the reserves from there?
I think
No,
yeah.
it's even
I
lower
think
than that,
it's
isn't
Is it lower than? Is it 21 then?
whatever this is.
It's-
Like
it's a young
someone will
bunch
know.
of
It's
that.
definitely
Either way,
the-
they're going to fall
it's-
into
yeah.
that bracket. Yeah.
But it's just
But whoever it is, it don't matter who it is. It's the fact that there's an Hull FC team full of kids that's going to go across to Australia and play against some of the best academies in the world. You know, we're looking at. I mean, I know we're going to end up playing against Wests because there's that connection there with Ellis.
And
He's
Gaz,
already
yeah.
basically said we're in conversations with them, but we're looking at like the Bulldogs, we're looking at the Panthers, but basically any. I think we're looking at all of them to be honest, but they're the ones that have been mentioned.
Play a game in Perth in
Little bit
35
of
degree.
Yeah.
A little bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's sort of like a blessing and a curse because you have got a good academy side. I just said that, but you go over there and these players want to perform the hearts out, and they put themselves in the shop window. And which young man that plays rugby and girl nowadays, you know, that plays rugby as an amateur or gets signed up to one of these squads, doesn't one day want to test themselves in Australia? And what better time to do it as a 17, 18, 19-year-old getting picked up, putting yourself in that shop window? So you
That's
could
the worry,
lose.
innit? Yeah.
Well,
you could lose some superstars.
We're going to speak about a player from the Scholars game, and I don't know if he'll be eligible to go. Listeners, you might be able to let us know if he is of that age when it comes to it. But Caleb Palliasina, you saw the highlights from that Scholars game the other
Reminded
day.
me of a young me. if I'm honest.
And a
Apart
player
from
like that goes
he didn't come
across.
off
Is he a
needing
bench warmer?
oxygen.
Yeah, players like that go across, perform well against the NRL. They're going to have people there watching.
And
It's
his
what they
family
do.
as well because of his heritage where
The
he's from.
Polynesian heritage.
Yeah.
and-
So it could be a blessing. It could be not. But
Yeah,
for-
if we go over there and perform really well, and then you got NRL clubs sniffing around. I'm not saying we will. I'm not saying we won't. Who knows? Because we just don't know. But like Lasty's twins might go and then just turn around to the dad and say, "Oh, sorry, Dad, we're going to sign for Penrith," and go through their academy. Like, you'd be an idiot to say no.
But again, with the impending, probable, likely, for whichever way you want at it, takeover of the Super League by the NRL, that puts you in, as a club as a whole, not just your scholarship and your academy, but your first team. It puts you in prime position in that shop window because you've been out there, you've showcased your talents, you've shown what.
But it also sets up a good connection with the NRL
That's
that we're
what-
out there as
that's
well.
what I'm
So
making,
it
yeah.
can work too, but
You
both
can
ways,
say it works
can't
the way as well. You're
Yeah.
out there. You're also looking at some of them young kids.
Yeah.
You're also speaking to West and saying that 18-year-old, he ain't breaking into your first team soon. 3 years with us. Season on loan. Does he want to come and play some summer rugby for us? There's so many ways. So I wasn't trying to be negative at all. It can only be a good thing for you. And I think it's great news.
Yeah. Well done to the club on that.
Massive.
Brilliant.
Absolutely massive, yeah.
So we just mentioned it a little bit. The Scholars game. They was a whole team that beat a Rovers team, I think, for the first time this season.
Netball.
Shut up.
We don't have a netball.
32-16
Can't afford one.
winners on, I think it was Thursday night. Craig, you saw the highlights.
I did.
Some pretty impressive young play from both teams, actually, I think. But yeah, a lot of the LFC lads really stood up, and a group of players. What was the word that I think it was Thurkill used, or Marla, one of them? We're excited. If you're excited about the young crop we've got now, you wait until the crop behind them start to come through, and this is the crop he was on about. Palliacina, I think Lasty's lads are in there as well, and a couple of other ex-players, family members. They're in there. They've just gone off the top of my head, sorry.
A group of lads in that team that have basically played together since they were like 5. They've come through the West's system together as a spine. I think it's the full
Was it-
1, 6,
one of
9,
them, something like that, wasn't it?
1,
Yeah.
6, 7, 9, 13. They've all played in the same team since they were like this big. Basically.
And it's time for you as a club, isn't it, to change that narrative that you can't keep hold of these young superstars, because that is one of the banters that goes back and forth from the east side to the west, that, Josh Hodgson, Jez Litton, Mikey Lewis, this list of players that have ended up being not just superstars for Rovers but England stars. Josh Hodgson, a particular example, tearing up in Australia. And it's time for you to change that narrative and say we are treating these kids right.
I want to
Almost won the Dally
twist
M.
your word in a little bit there. It's not a case of us not being able to keep hold of them. It's a case of us making piss poor decisions and letting them go. Because Hodgson, it wasn't a case of he wanted to leave. We just didn't give him a contract. Because we had Outen at the time, an Outen class player, but why won't you keep them both?
Incredibly pedantic point of view. What I'm saying is, it's not about whether you let them go, you told them to leave, you annoyed them, they didn't like the toxic environment. It's irrelevant. What I'm saying is, it's time for you as a club to show that shit doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, start
So
making
that-
the right decisions.
So that in 10 years' time, when Palliacina is a superstar and you're up there competing for trophies, people can turn around and be like, homegrown talent, played for us from under 15s. We signed him when he was a whippersnapper. That's what I'm on about, not how they left. Or
Got Wigan
why
and
they left.
Saints. It's like a conveyor belt, innit? And obviously that's the blueprint. That's where you want to be. And looking at
the
that,
difference with
you've
them is
got that.
there's players littered around the Super League that came through Wigan and Saints academies that got let go, but only because they had someone else better. Whereas historically over the last 10 years or whatever, there's been players that have left. Right now, Jez Litton been the main one for
Dean
me.
Hadley.
You let them leave, and then they go on to become better than what you actually kept. So
The one thing our club has done right over the last few years is the youth, and we're starting to see that now with Martin and Barron and Barnforth hopefully coming through, and hopefully we're going to see it continually happening with these young lads, because there's some really good potential. You don't want to put pressure on the shoulders or on the kids, but what we're seeing so far, and granted I've only seen a few highlights and a few snippets from the games, they are a special bunch of kids.
The highlights, as you rightly say, Dean, I have seen them, and some of the shape that they were able to put on at 15 years of age, and or however old they are, 15, 16, and some of the lines they were running and the tackles they were making and things like that it was just great to see. Like, obviously, as a Rovers fan, I'd rather have that been Rovers academy or scholars doing that, but that's taking nothing away from Hull.
Yeah.
That was, from what I could see on there, like, if they keep going at that sort of rate, at that sort of level, watch this space.
Just on Caleb Palisinas try. Did anyone see Fecker's tweet about it? His dad.
You told me about it, yeah.
He shared it and put the comment. He gets his speed from his mother.
Excellent. Lovely bit of business, that.
I do want to point out, because you mentioned Martin and not putting too much pressure on the shoulders. I think this kid, I don't think it matters. I think Lewis Martin will take whatever you put on his shoulders, just in his stride.
No, mine was about the scholars.
Yeah,
Pressure on them
but
coming through.
what I want to point out, and you shared it earlier in the week, he's played 35 games for us so far. Since he made his debut, he's only missed one game, and that's when Tony Smith dropped him for Tyndall. Yeah. 35 games, 2,810 minutes, 16 tries. He's averaging 15 carries a game and 104 metres. In your first 35 games in Super League,
it's pretty impressive.
19, 20 year
Yeah,
old.
he's only young.
Like, that's
Look, I've been...
that's
Just
class.
before you start there, that's a shout out to Hull FC stats as well on X. And with us having a week off, I think he's gone through all the stats for the season. So any Hull fans who want to have a look at that, because some real interesting stats that he's put up this week. Have a look, Hull FC stats on X.
That's very time consuming.
At Hull
as well.
FC
Yeah.
underscore stats.
Oh,
You know, look, my point was just on the player, Martin, in general. I've been particularly impressed with the way this year that he's managed to sustain that performance, because I don't quite hold the same view that he's a future England winger just yet, but the potential is there. But I do think he's very, very good. The stats are very impressive. What I've been impressed about is what happened to him last year, what happened to a lot of your young kids, didn't affect him. If anything, it spared him on. He had to take extra runs in because your forwards wasn't doing it for him. So he had to put extra work in last year. And he was getting battered about and players weren't looking after him. I've said this 20 times on this pod, like Jack Charles, who now isn't playing first grade.
Logan Moy.
Right? Logan Moy. He, all right, winger's slightly different than being in the centre and taking hits as much, but he didn't take that and take a backward step. And that's why I've been impressed with him this year, because he's, if anything, he's cooking on again. So that doesn't take away from his stats that he did well,
No.
but he had to do so much extra work that you wouldn't want a young lad doing last year, and it hasn't bothered him.
But it's credit, like you said, credit to him that he's carrying.
Credit
on.
to him completely.
Yeah. One last thing on Hull FC, or two last things. The reserves won. There was quite a few senior players in there. They beat Salford 60 points to 6.
Biff.
The bit of Biff, apparently, yeah. Interesting team selection. Well, I think it is anyway. There was Moy, Charles, Esse played, and Aiden, but Barmforth played and started at second row. A player who's what we know as a hooker, playing at second row.
Played at 13 there. Last time he played for the reserves, he was at 13, I think.
I see him as a 13, I do, but second row is totally different to a ball handling role for me. But I might be reading too much into it. It might just been for one game. I don't know.
I was thinking about this earlier, and the way I'm thinking about it is, let's see how he goes at 12. Or he wore 12. Let's see how he goes, because we've got a bit of a crisis at second row at the minute. We've not brought anyone in. We haven't been able to find the right player to bring in. We don't just want to bring any random player in. So let's see if we can do something with someone we've already got. And because you don't want to, for a player like that, I don't know if he's ever played second row before in his youth, but for a player like that, you don't just want to say, oh yeah, go on, play Super League at second row.
For me, there must be a reason why he's playing second row, because for me, he starts over Hutchinson at 9, who started at 9 that game. If we're going on hookers, so there must be a distinct reason why we are playing him there. We've got to be blooding him for something. But 4 red cards in this game. Aiden got a yellow for an apparent accidental elbow to the head. That was a wording, so read into that what you must.
I slagged Aiden off last week and I didn't do it on the podcast.
So you did it in private?
Yeah, I messaged him. I feel like he's repeatedly just been letting you down this season. I feel like all of a sudden he's one of the players that seems to have this hangover of the niggle and the toxicity from last year that was killing your club. he seems to be involved in a lot of this stuff at the minute. And, all right, maybe coincidence in this one, but I noticed it in both the derbies as well that we've had this year. He seems to have almost lost the focus on the game head, and he wants to be involved in that. Maybe that's just what I've seen.
I think I saw it was Magic. I think he only got 12 minutes. And when we get a prop forward sent off and another one sin-binned, and then your other prop forward on the bench only gets 12 minutes, I might be wrong, but I'm sure it's one of the games, and I think it was Magic.
It was.
What does that say?
He just seems to be falling out of favour, but I don't think he's doing himself any favours.
No.
He hasn't really done much for you since, I think, the Castleford game, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, where I think he actually had a decent game. Might not be that game, but yeah, so just the point I meant to mention last week.
I don't think he's been anywhere near as good as last year, but was he a decent player in a very poor team? I don't know.
Possibly.
We'll see as it goes on.
One shout out before we finish. Callum and Lloyd Kent both played for Yorkshire at the weekend in the Academy Origin fixture. Yorkshire ran out 42-10 winners, which is always nice to get one over the other side. And Lloyd touched down for a try. So well done to them two both for representing Yorkshire. And that wraps up a
very positive FC segment.
yeah, and short.
And short, yeah.
What?
I have no idea.
Why are you showing me the order in which we're going to
Got
talk
it written
about?
down here, don't you worry.
Because the order I'm going to put the travel things
Oh, you mean you're going to put things on in the order that I asked you to put them on in the first place?
I might have done the event, then the discount.
These two hurt my head.
Viewers,
I mean,
and
you've got that wrong.
viewers and listeners, like us, just let us know if you like it when Jimmy and Jake break the fourth wall every week to have a conversation.
Discount last, please. Anyway, tell me when I'm ready. Cool. Right. Stuff going on at Travel this week. Same as always, you've got the two games. So we'll start off on Friday. It is 8 p.m, isn't it? It's not one of these stupid 7:45s. Is it 8? Yeah, 8 p.m. kickoff. We've had 7:45 kickoffs before.
About 10 years ago.
Shh. I'm talking. Live on the big screen if you can't make it across to Leeds. I don't know how many buses we've got going, but
I've got it down.
Oh, okay.
We'll
Dean's
talk
got it
about
down.
it soon.
The front.
Then we've got Saturday. We've got Rovers against Huddersfield. Sorry, I've not got it written down. Rovers against Huddersfield. Again, if you can't make it to the game, come down to Travel. It's on the big screen. And then after that, this one's a bit of a long one, this. So this is the 25th of May. This is Bank Holiday Sunday. It's an all-day thing. You've got a Beefer day session. I'm assuming, based on the picture, that they think it's going to be a hot day because there's palm trees everywhere. We got 4 DJs for 4 hours worth of endless Ibiza hits, followed by Ibiza nights. So that's Bank Holiday Sunday night. You've got DJ Steve Cable on from 8 p.m. until late, and I'm assuming, based on the picture, that that's going to be some sort of disco. So, yeah. After that, don't forget to bring your Caesar Pass. You get 15% off if you get a food and drink bill. Got to have food and drink on the bill. And yeah, as it does say on the picture that you need to make a booking, but you do not need to make a booking. So just turn up. I have called you out, yeah.
Rightly end as well.
Anyway, what are we doing next? Because we took too long and you took too long, and I think we've been recording for about 5 hours. We've been recording for over an hour, so...
Quick look at Leeds, Hull, and then Rovers Huddersfield.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I'm worried.
I'm expecting a response. I am actually not as worried as I was to the Huddersfield game.
I expect a response, but I'm still worried.
Less pressure.
A response for me as well doesn't mean we win. A response for me means turning up and putting performance in and righting a few wrongs from last week. But against a very good Leeds team, which they have been the last few weeks, that doesn't necessarily mean a win. But yeah,
I've wrote 3 things for your game.
Go
I
on.
think they'll agree with what you're saying. I think that you should expect a response. That's fair from fans to want that. I think that you need to be smarter as a team from what you've shown just recently, particularly the last outing. I think it's 2 very similar teams. This is a chance for you to show where you're actually at, because you've had a slightly inflated league position, I believe, only slightly, but I think that for you to truly be in the mix and fighting for playoff spots, which would be at the beginning of the season unthinkable for you, but the way you've played in so many games this year, now a real possibility. You're now going to play another team that they're decent, but they ain't top 4 decent. And if you're going to be skating around them playoffs, you're going to have a very tough fixture away from home against a team that you need to prove to the rest of the league that you're capable of taking on and beating, especially now that we're coming into that second sort of third of the season where positions will get a little bit more set. I'm not saying they'll be set for a long time. So I'm expecting, to be honest with you, a really good game.
Yeah, I am.
These are Leeds are one of the teams like you've just alluded to there that are going to end up in and around where we expect now to end up. So yeah,
Be nice if we turn up how we know we can play, like wire away. That was the best of us this season, I believe. We can come away with a win. I don't know if we will. I am more sad into Leeds taking the 2 points home, but I wouldn't be surprised if we went there and took the 2 points. So yeah, really good game. I'm really looking forward to this one. We're recording on the Monday night. No injury news so far. I'm hoping later on in the week we'll hear a bit of positive injury news with maybe a couple of second rows coming back. That would be really nice. But like I say, we ain't got no injury news yet. 1,500 tickets sold already by the club announced today, and 20 plus coaches, which the club have laid on again for the fans. So it's great that they're continuously doing that, and they're doing that for the Lee away game on a Thursday night in a couple of weeks.
that's why we can't afford our own stadium, spending it all on buses.
So
The free travel's great. I said that. I like to have banter about it. It's great to put it on for you. Has to stop at some point. Maybe
you
not.
can't carry on doing it.
Maybe it's next year. Maybe it's partway through this year.
You can carry on doing it, but
quite a well-travelling club, anyways. Like we know Rovers and Hull Rovers up there, so your fans are going to go regardless. But
we haven't been the last few years.
No, because now you're buying the good faith back. It comes from games like this, because you've had an appalling showing in the last game out. If you have an appalling showing against Leeds again, bad faith is so much easier to win than good faith. People will drop in numbers again, and then you'll need the free coaches. So it's not a big do-or-die game for you, but free coaches, get over there, put a performance on, win or lose, and then your fans will start coming back.
Yep. That's it. Out to add?
Yeah.
No. What
Don't
about your next training exercise?
Well, it's a tough team, innit? I mean, don't jump in, but what a tough team. I mean, we've got the world beaters over here, and they ran each other so close.
Well, yeah, there is that to it, but
Just don't get sucked into their niggliness like we did.
well, after last week, I'm hoping that it's going to be a continuous trait where we're not going to get. Sorry, last week, a couple of days ago, that we're not going to get sucked into that niggle especially in these sort of games. We did it against Salford earlier on in the season, and again, we could probably scored a couple more tries, but we did sort of drop a little bit to their level, if you will. I mean, obviously, I know it's Super League, but I was thinking as I was looking at our sort of run of fixtures coming up, it's kind of like the fixtures are falling perfectly for us at the moment. You know, before the Challenge Cup game, we had an easy game against Salford, and now we've got Huddersfield after the Challenge Cup. So it's kind of like these
The bottom two
fixtures
teams
are coming at the right time for us. Like, because if we'd have had Wigan at Magic and then Warrington after the semi-final, we'd probably be talking maybe a little bit differently, with obviously different game scenarios and stuff like that. But for me, it's a perfect fixture to come after a Challenge Cup semi.
Look, the only way it could be better would be to play Salford again, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. Huddersfield are still an improved side from when we played them first time. They was improved against you. You know, no banter about that in this, what I'm saying now. They're still nowhere near the level that we're at. I don't think that's too arrogant to say. And we'll be expecting something good, a good score. I'm not really expecting the cricket score that we had the last time out. I am expecting to rest a few. I think it would make sense knowing that we've got Wire the week after. And I think it gives us a chance to do two things. Number one, some fringe players or some players that get a few less minutes to come in and get some game time. And if we do start to pull away in the second half and we are up by a large score, then we can start doing what we did against Salford, which is change positions for a few people, try a few more things ahead of essentially the main focus. We can't take one eye off the league.
No, definitely.
But we do have a Challenge Cup
final.
We do have a Challenge Cup final coming up. So
How many weeks is it actually? Is it
3?
4 weeks?
three,
Three.
and then the final.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 league games and then
So
the
what you got
final.
Huddersfield at home, Wire away,
St Helens at home, and then the final.
and the final.
So that's a tough one.
And then
talked about
we
the
got
sorry,
after it.
Saints at home are on the Friday night as well.
So you got an 8-day.
So we
turnaround.
get the 8-day turnaround. And Friday night, touch wood, Friday night under the lights at Craven Park is our favourite hunting ground. So even though it is Saints and we don't know where they're at right now, still they're a bit up and down themselves, aren't they? They've been poor in patches.
Yeah.
That's not a bad fixture to have in terms of it's a competitive fixture, but not a Wigan.
Yeah, absolutely. So just very, very briefly on this weekend then, about the players wise and things like that. I think you've got to include Broadbent. Didn't get to talk about this in the game because obviously we've spoken about other things. 19 carries, 280 metres and 5 tackle busts.
I wrote that down, yeah, but I didn't bring my pad. That's
That is
massive meters. It
unreal.
doesn't matter how dominant you are as a team in the second half. For one player to make nearly 300 metres in a game is mental.
Yeah, and it's got to
He'll
keep his
find a
place.
place for him. He has to.
Yeah, I mean, Peter's alluded to it in his post-match interview. He says no matter where you're playing, you know what you're getting out of him, and I think he won't be one of the ones who miss out. You'll maybe see like maybe a Jared dropping out with an Aribe Doro coming in, possibly. Maybe see more minutes from Leyland, possibly Kershaw getting a game. See where Budgie and Tom Davis
You've
are
got
at.
Morgul's
No,
fresh
Ren-
as well, haven't you?
Ren-
Morg's fresh.
Probably
Rest
Jack
Jared
Brown get more
again
meters,
because he
yeah.
rested him against Salford, didn't he?
He did, yeah, but he don't need to be playing every week, especially in. No offense, I don't want this to sound big-headed, but games like this are where we can afford to rest.
So arrogant.
Well, that's what I was trying to avoid. But games like that are where we can afford to rest him.
Yeah.
So that he's got more in the tank for the end of the season because he's not what he was
It's no spring chicken.
10, 15 years ago when he was ruling the roost at the Roosters. And, you know, we do have to look after him. We do have to manage him. And I think if we can, then we do. But if he plays, he plays. It's one of those. But I wouldn't be surprised if we rest him.
Fair enough.
I wouldn't. Right, predictions then. Craig's time to shine.
Bosh. Starting the week off, very tough one for Catalan, away to St Helens on a 5-day turnaround to playing at Totally Wicked. St Helens after a week off. I've gone for Saints by 14.
Can I just point out before we all go through this that this is, so far in the season, probably the toughest week, I think. I think there's going to be a lot of different selections this week.
You say that, but mine and Susan's are very similar.
I found it particularly tough when I was doing this earlier. I agree.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, that's at Craig at 7 o'clock in the morning, so it's clearly covered.
You see-
When I did mine last night, so
What
yeah.
you going for, Josh?
Yeah, I've gone Saints by 12. I could honestly see this being the complete opposite way around. I could see Catalan putting a big response in, Saints being rubbish like we've seen at times this year, and then I'm sat here saying, Jesus Christ, Catalan won by 20.
I think Saints are lucky that the Catalans had a semi-final because otherwise I'd be back in Catalan, and I think if Catalan went there and won, Wellens would be the first casualty of the year because I think he's really on thread now. But because of the 5-day turnaround, I'm going Saints by 10.
And I'm the odd one out. I've gone Catalan by 6.
Could
I,
open
I
up the
think
league.
there'll be a big response from Catalan.
It's one of those, and you just can't predict.
Yeah. I won't be surprised if Catalan went there and won.
Yeah, that's like Josh just said. And Susan
Catalan
has.
had a big rest in the second half, didn't they? To be fair.
Well, there is that. That's,
Yeah,
They'll be resting Whitehead with his band, won't they now? So
to be fair, James, that was very arrogant.
Just deleted all my predictions.
Well, they made you
by
look good,
accident.
didn't they, Craig?
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe how good they made us look. And Susan's gone for St Helens by 6. So, again, not too dissimilar, but it was one of those where I think we've had to put something, so we have. We've already discussed this. Probably one of the ties of the round Friday night over at Headingley. Very, very tight game. I think it's going to ebb and flow. I have gone for Leeds to pip it by 8.
I was genuinely tempted to put FC for this. I changed my mind based on it being at Leeds, and I do think that Leeds do sort of hold one of them grounds that it does become a bit of a fortress in some ways for them.
As we well know.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's maybe a bit blinded that we have had so many close games there as well, but I think Leeds at home are slightly different, and I think that they've got enough to do you, unless you do tend to play Gideon Squire. So I've got Leeds by 6.
I've got Leeds by 8. I think it will be very close for most part, but I think they'll get a try at the end just to cement it. I wouldn't, again, like the Saints Catalan, I wouldn't be surprised if we went there and won, but I just think that we'll have a little bit too much for us on Friday. I hope I'm wrong.
I've gone same. Leeds by 8.
And Susan has Leeds by 6. So we're all
Really close.
8-6, 8-8-6. Could be another good game. Wigan versus Lee at the Brick. Also Friday night.
The bus stop derby.
The bus stop derby, yeah. I think Wigan just have way too much, especially after Lee, after the Challenge Cup effort, what was put in. It wasn't a high quality game for me, the Challenge Cup, this second semi-final, but it was full of effort and commitment and desire. So I think that'll take its toll on Lee, and I've gone for Wigan by 22.
Wigan by 10.
Wigan by 14.
Wigan by 16.
And Susan's got Wigan by 12.
I was writing mine down thinking, I bet I've gone a lot higher than the rest of them with 14.
And I've
You've gone 22, yeah.
I just think, again, Wigan, they've had that week off. Look what they did to us.
I think Lee will come out all guns blazing.
Yeah.
But I think
Wigan will ride it out. We
Wigan
did
will
that
ride it
against
out.
Wigan.
Yep.
And yeah, I think that's where the big score is going to come from. Couple of tries later on, just to take it away from them. That's the logic I've gone with there. So attack versus defence on Saturday night. Rovers versus Huddersfield. I'm gonna that's gonna bite me in the arse now, innit? But I've actually gone for Rovers by 28. I still think even if we make changes, we'll have too much for them.
Rovers by 26.
I've gone Rovers, and I don't know why I did it. I've gone 21.
21.
I just
No,
just
you're
felt
right.
like putting one.
Jared will be practicing his drop goals for Wembley.
For Wembley, yeah.
Well, we've got Australians that are known for it. Webster.
You know what? I just
Schneider.
had a feeling you'll be 6-8 points or something in front, and you'll half time something. Mikey will just drop one over on the. I don't know why. I think, but yeah,
It's been seen.
Yeah.
Maybe not by Mikey, but
I've gone Rovers, but a bit less. I've gone Rovers by 14, and I think a lot of that's to do with they have had a bit of a rest, and as Josh has mentioned a few times, I think you will rest a few players. It'll be a bit more disjointed, and as much as we didn't help the cause, I think they did look a little bit better than they have done
you made
against
them look
us at Magic. No, I don't think we did make them look good. I think they were a much improved team with Clunes back for a start. They're still going to get beat, but
No, but you're right. If we take you out aside of what you did in that game, they didn't perform the same way they did when we played them 4 weeks prior to that. There wasn't a great rugby team. They didn't look Super League quality, right? But they wasn't very, very poor like when they played us and we just fell apart. They will be a different team, and they shouldn't be a struggle for us to beat, but they won't be the 40-point walkover that it was 4 weeks ago for us, I don't believe.
and with an expected weakened Rovers team, I think it'll be a little bit tougher than your runaway sort of 28 or whatever points you've predicted. I think it'll be a bit closer.
fair dues. And Susan's on sort of the same wavelength as me and Josh. 24 Rovers. Again, probably one of the ties of the round.
You can't say that every time you.
I've said it twice. One of, which means there can be two. All right, Gareth me back.
You won't say it for the
It's the
last
third
game.
time. It's the third time.
Why?
Come on,
Come on,
going
yeah,
to-
come on, let's
that
get
was
sorted.
versus
That was my
Wire.
coup de grace. Wakefield versus Wire over at the Solicitors Bellevue, whatever it's called nowadays, stadium. This one, I could not decide. I could not split it. I've gone very, very tight. Warrington by 4.
Wire by 12.
Wakefield by 4.
Wakefield by 6.
And Susan's got Warrington by 6. So again, very, very close, man's Josh. And
Working
probably
with a week off and playing at home, I think.
Oh, they haven't won at home yet.
They're going to have to eventually, just like us.
Yeah, but they're playing Warrington, who are in the top sort
Keep
of four,
going.
so
Come on.
he don't like it, does he, when I make points?
You're ruining his podcast.
I don't care. He invited me to be on it, so I'll do what I want. The tie of the round, not one of, the tie of the round. Castleford versus Salford. I don't envision this being a very good game, to be honest. I've got Cast by 10.
Yeah, well, I've obviously picked Salford because we all know. Nah, I've gone Cass by 14.
I'm cast by 24.
Cast by 20.
And Susan has Cast by 8. So, a couple of disparities there, but not too many.
No.
How many players do you think Cass are going to get sent off?
Remember last time you made fun of me and I made a reel out of you?
I do think on that game, it's a
He's
case
got
of
you there.
Cass aren't particularly very good at the minute. They're quite poor. They're playing at home on a tight ground. Even putting young academy players in that they're not great, but they're getting to learn their roles. It's not a free-flowing pitch to be scoring loads of
It's
tries.
harder to stretch them.
And Cass aren't that good. So it's not like they've got this attacking prowess. You know, they've pretty much got turnstile.
Spit your words out, Josh.
I couldn't get that. I wanted to say Texhoy, I didn't want to rag him, but turnstile Texhoy as well is pretty much the only person that really does anything attacking forward from at the minute. And if the players around him aren't helping out, so I've got them by 14 because I still think they'll win, but I won't be expecting big scores. Could be wrong, but that's what I'm not seeing.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Well, that was chaotic.
Any
again,
more?
wasn't it?
Yeah, well, we're now going to do section 2 of the semi-final because I don't think we've got enough out.
Yeah, so Magnum. No, I'm joking.
On the red button.
Should we just sit here and just us two? Just sorry, no, Amy, don't worry.
Just mention that we did get a really long message off a listener. What was it, about 2 weeks ago? Who mentioned doing more stuff, and it was really good, really insightful. I can't remember his name. I feel really bad. But he mentioned doing like midweek stuff and all that sort of stuff. I just want to say, I genuinely enjoyed reading what you'd written, but we ain't got time, have we? Like,
I've only worked 3 days a week.
oh, okay, those of us that have got full-time jobs. No, it would be
classed as
really good, and
full-time.
I'd love to sit every day and talk about rugby.
yeah, it would
just-
be fantastic. But it's just not feasible, unfortunately. But for anyone else that wants to put across ideas, anything like that, don't just go on YouTube and slag Josh off. Like, it's fun, but you know, other stuff. You got any ideas that you want us to do differently, anything like that, just put it in the comments, put it on Facebook, Instagram, X, all that sort of stuff. We do literally read everything. So yeah. Anyway, thanks again to Comscaf for being our sponsor. Thanks again to Tribal and Amy especially for just coming in and opening so that we can do this. Yeah, see you, bye.
See you, bye.
See you, bye.
So you bye.